HOA Karen called my dad a leech got permanently banned from the HOA. The room exploded with gasps when Karen, the self-appointed queen of the Willow Creek HOA, slammed her gavel and screamed, "Your dad's a leech, mooching off our community." Her voice, dripping with venom, echoed through the packed meeting hall. My dad, Tom, a quiet man who'd spent decades fixing neighbors' fences for free, sat stunned, his weathered hands gripping the armrests of his chair. I was there in the back row, my stomach twisting. Karen had been a thorn in our side since we moved to Willow Creek 5 years ago. But this calling my dad, a man who'd raised me single-handedly after Mom passed, who'd mowed lawns for widows and shoveled driveways for the elderly, a leech. It was a gut punch. The room buzzed with whispers, eyes darting between Karen's smug grin and Dad's reddening face. Willow Creek was a tight-knit neighborhood, the kind where kids played in the cul-de-sacs and folks waved from porches. Dad fit right in, always tinkering in his garage or helping someone with a busted pipe. But Karen, she thrived on control. As HOA president, she'd fine people for untrimmed hedges, send nasty letters about unsightly mailboxes, and once tried to ban Mrs. Larson's rose garden for attracting bees. Nobody liked her, but nobody challenged her until now. Her accusation wasn't random. It started months ago when Dad organized a community cleanup. He'd rallied everyone to spruce up the park, picking up litter and planting new trees. Karen, who'd done nothing but complain about the mess, took credit for it at the next HOA meeting. Dad didn't care about the spotlight, but when she started spreading lies that he was using community funds for personal projects, things got ugly. She'd twisted his goodwill into a conspiracy, claiming he was siphoning HOA dues to fix his own house. I watched Dad's shoulders slump as Karen waved a stack of papers, her evidence. She'd printed out receipts from the cleanup, circling random expenses like mulch and paint, insisting they were for Dad's personal use. "This man's been freeloading for years," she declared, her voice shrill. "He's a parasite, and I moved to evict him from Willow Creek." The room split. Some neighbors, swayed by Karen's theatrics, nodded hesitantly. Others, like old Mr. Jenkins, who Dad had helped after a flood, shouted, "That's nonsense," I wanted to scream. But Dad caught my eye and shook his head, urging me to stay calm. That's who he was, steady, even when the world was falling apart. But Karen wasn't done. She doubled down, digging into Dad's past. "He's a retired mechanic, barely scraping by." She sneered. "Why else would he volunteer so much? He's after our money." Her words stung because they weren't entirely false. Dad wasn't rich. After Mom's cancer drained their savings, he'd poured everything into raising me. But to call him a leech, it was a lie so vile it burned. Then came the twist. Mrs. Larson, the rose garden lady, stood up, trembling. She was in her 80s, frail, with a voice like a whisper. But the room went silent. "Karen," she said, "you've been skimming HOA funds for years. I have proof." A collective gasp sucked the air out. Mrs. Larson held up a folder, her hands shaking but her gaze fierce. "I've been auditing the books," she said. "Karen's been funneling money into her own account, thousands for landscaping that never happened. Repairs to her own house. She's the leech." Karen's face drained of color. She stammered, "That's absurd. You're senile," but Mrs. Larson wasn't alone. Jake, the neighborhood's tech-savvy teenager, stepped forward, holding his laptop. "I hacked into the HOA's bank records," he admitted, blushing. "Mrs. Larson's right. Karen's been wiring money to herself for 2 years." The room erupted. Neighbors shouted, some demanding Karen's resignation, others calling for the police. Dad stayed quiet, but I could see the weight lifting from his shoulders. Karen's lies were unraveling, and her throne was crumbling. The meeting turned into a battlefield. Karen, cornered, tried to spin it. "This is a witch hunt," she cried, banging her gavel so hard it cracked. "You're all jealous of my leadership," but the evidence was undeniable. Jake projected the bank records onto the wall line after line of transfers to Karen's personal account. The landscaping she'd built her backyard pool. The repairs, a new deck for her patio. She'd stolen over $20,000, all while pointing fingers at Dad. I stood up, my voice shaking but loud. You called my dad a leech, Karen, but you're the one bleeding this community dry. He spent his life helping us, while you've been lying and stealing. How dare you? The room roared in agreement, and for the first time, Karen looked small. The vote was swift. By a landslide, the HOA stripped Karen of her presidency and banned her from ever holding office again. But it didn't end there. Mr. Jenkins, a retired lawyer, filed a formal complaint with the police. Karen's face twisted in horror as two officers arrived, summoned by a neighbor during the chaos. They didn't arrest her yet, but they took her laptop and the HOA's financial records for investigation. As Karen stormed out, clutching her purse like a shield, she tripped over the crumpled petition she'd waved so proudly. It was poetic, almost too perfect. The room cheered, not out of spite, but relief. Justice had been served, at least for now. Dad didn't gloat. He never did. Instead, he thanked Mrs. Larson and Jake, then turned to the crowd. I just want Willow Creek to be a home for all of us, he said softly. Let's move forward together. The applause was deafening, and I felt tears sting my eyes. Karen's life unraveled fast. Word spread beyond Willow Creek, and her reputation tanked. Her real estate business, built on her community leader persona, lost clients overnight. Neighbors shunned her, and her once pristine lawn became a jungle she couldn't afford the landscapers anymore. The police investigation dragged on, but rumors swirled about pending charges. Karma didn't just knock, it kicked her door down. Months later, the neighborhood felt lighter. Dad was elected interim HOA president, despite his protests. He didn't want the title, but he wanted fairness. Under him, the HOA slashed petty fines, fixed the park for real, and even threw a barbecue where Mrs. Larson's roses were the centerpiece. Karen, she moved away. Her house sold at a loss. Nobody missed her, but her downfall left us all thinking, how do we judge people Dad's kindness had been weaponized against him? Yet the truth won out. It always does. Eventually. What do you think, was Karen's banishment fair? Or did the neighborhood go too far? Share your thoughts. I'm curious where you stand.